Alrighty, good morning, everyone. It's 8 a.m. It's Sunday morning. It's the 18th of October. And as I promised before, a couple of days ago, I mentioned to you that I was going to ask Jay Grutman to get on here with us. And we're going to talk about the items that were brought to our attention by John Garcia, our maintenance man. And there are three items of importance, and these have been circulated quite a bit around to the various owners here. And we have been on this. We have been working on it and talking about it. So I don't want you to think this is a memo that came out on September the 25th from John. And the first one we will talk about is the repair of the 5670, 5690 doors and planters, which have been leaking into the garage since I started at the Victoria 3 years ago. Okay, so Jay, what's the story on this?
Okay, Ron. The courtyard was redone it was redone several times. This will be the third time it's being redone. I think it was redone about 7 or 8 years ago, where all of the paver stones were completely lifted up. The courtyard, the passageways to all three buildings, a rubberized liner was put under the entire area with diversion pipes to take water away from standing in those locations. It was tested, it's worked fine. What apparently has happened, and again, due to not maintaining things correctly, the drain lines in the planters, in the courtyard driveway area have become clogged with silt. And because of that, they're not able to function properly. As in the past, when they didn't function properly, the silt backed up, especially in the location where the planters are adjacent to all three buildings, and it elevated, it raised the cobblestone. When it raised the cobblestone, it prevented the doors from fully opening because they raised and the doors are fixed, so they just couldn't open. One thing that we've done in the past is that we've had to actually go in from underneath where the planters are to clear those drains out to allow free water flow. As far as the doors and the pavers in front of the doors, we've had to lift those up, clean out the silt that elevated them, and put the pavers back. With the planters especially, because they're planters that filled with dirt, the soil that we used to use on those was called lightweight soil for several reasons. One, the weight of the planters and the dirt would I think it's iolite, would put too much pressure on the ceiling in the garage. And that's one of the other reasons why we needed to reinforce both columns in the garage near the exit way to prevent cracking. But now, because of all of the overflow of water not draining properly, you're seeing in the corners, the planters are cracking, in the corners there's water runoff during heavy rainstorms, because water has to go somewhere and it finds the point of least resistance. Those are points of least resistance. But as far as redoing everything for the third time, I remember we spent, I believe it was about 120 or 130,000 or more just putting in this liner system in the planters. All previous two times, the design was from CSM Construction and implemented by Daniello Construction out of West Palm, and subsequently inspected by them after the work was done. I remember clearly, before we even put the pavers back down, we filled the entire courtyard up with water as though it was a swimming pool to make sure that the liners were secure. And only after that did we put the pavers down and the sand bed that it rests upon. But, you know, with this, with pipes, with gutters, and many other things at the Victoria, everybody just needs to realize we're literally sitting in an ocean vessel that's secured on land. And if you don't constantly do the proper maintenance in a timely fashion, you're going to run into more expensive situations that ultimately will cost 5-10 times more than the simple maintenance of it. But
Right. Well, one little suggestion, if you don't mind, try to tip your camera down just a little bit, because I'm getting your eyes in the ceiling really well. Yeah, that's a lot better. Good, good, good. Very good. Outstanding. Yeah, much better. So, Jay, is there, well, there's never a simple solution to anything, especially when it comes to this. And I did shoot some video on the wall downstairs that shows where the water comes down like a little waterfall when it really rains a lot.
Really rains
and apparently, they, according to John, this could really start causing some other serious problems if it's not attended to. What's your guesstimate on how to do it, and approximately give me a ballpark figure of what you think it should cost to have it done?
Redoing the planters, that's predominantly cosmetic. The expensive part is going to be more, as usually is, labor intensive to dig out the soil in all of the planters, clean out the drains, and really put in, at this point, because it's the second go around on this, it'll be the third, to put in some kind of a drainage clean out trap, possibly from the underside in the garage, where we can more easily access these things and not having to constantly take all the soil out of the planters. To do the planters and to do that, we're probably looking in the neighborhood of around, I would say, 20 to 25,000. We don't need to do the entire courtyard to be redone. At this point, that would cost at least 250,000 in today's dollars, at least.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it's just not necessary. Because if we don't have not just the proper maintenance, but also the proper methodology for clean out, we're going to be doing this every 5 years.
Let me ask another question. Is it possible that to try to maybe keep the cost down a little bit, is it possible that John could actually take out all the soil and all that sort of thing in those planters, and then we could turn it over to the people who are going to do the work, save us a little bit of money?
The point, yes and no. We're basically paying John, including benefits, about $32 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
He's one person.
Mm-hmm.
Is it less expensive to have him do it, being one person and taking substantially longer than 3 laborer type people do it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know that answer. I mean, I know our gardeners are getting around 35 an hour, but, you know, can we get people at a lesser price? Probably. That's going to require somebody actually supervising this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And finding these people. Are they out there? Without question, they are. I use them not for things like this, but I use them for things around properties that I own in Vero. It's just a time issue.
Yeah, I asked the question because I'm sure that when people hear what you just said, they'd say, well, maybe we could do some of the work ourselves and then turn over the heavy lifting to the right people.
We can. I mean, we've done it in the past. You know, as you know, I've been there a long time, so I've gone through, not I personally, but the building has gone through numerous maintenance people. There was a fellow by the name of Pugh that did basically everything there. You know, I don't know how far we can take it. I mean, is it possible? Without question, yes.
For our newbies who are not familiar with you, Jay, just give us a little background here. How long have you been at Victoria? I know you've been on the board at least half a dozen times, but
Yeah,
how long have you lived here?
I've been at the Victoria since 1983.
When was the building built?
Let me think a minute. Was it 1983 or 1993? It's been almost 29 years, so whatever that number is. And the building was built in 84. No, so it was 92, 93 that I must have been there since.
So it's for this reason, everyone, that I asked Jay to be here with us, because there is nobody that I know of in this building that knows more about the building. And maybe some people have lived here for quite some time. Jay has had intimate experiences with the building, both as a board member, and you also own properties and you deal with properties both here and up north. And
Up
therefore
north,
you
yeah.
have a good general knowledge of all these various aspects of this sort of thing, a lot more so than people like the average board member.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to the next thing. And this is put a plan in place to replace all the fire system piping, which is seriously deteriorating and in danger of causing major problems. And let me follow through with one more thing about that. Upon discussing this with John, John said that every time the fire marshal comes around to inspect our pipes, he says to him, this is just an accident waiting to happen. When are you guys going to do something about it? So obviously, there's something here that we need to attend to. No question about it, especially when you look at the pipes. And by the way, I'm going to put some video up here, folks, so you'll be able to see it as Jay is talking, and you'll see the pipes, number one, that we're talking about, the ones that look really bad. I'll put those up first. Then I'm also going to show the pipes that have been replaced, those ones that are over close to your building, you know, the big
Yes.
new ones, the big,
the 6-inch or 8-inch ones.
yeah,
Yes.
they look really beautiful, those pipes. Then I'll also show the pipes that are in your garage that you would apply that material to, so that you'll see that video running while Jay is talking. So go ahead, if you will, please, and address those.
Probably 7 or 8 years ago, in the pipes, not irrigation pipes, the sprinkler pipes in the garage, we used a product. It was a 3-part product used in the airplane industry. It's a commercial product called POR 50. The pipes were completely cleaned, stripped, primed, and painted twice with this product. What we still needed to do to prevent the pipes from corroding, especially around the perimeter where the openings are, was to actually clean off the salt deposits that we get from being an open garage every 6 months. They had to be washed down and wiped down.
And how is that done? I mean, do you pressure wash them? How would you do that?
We used the in-house pressure washer. It was not anything complicated. And you know, we have a yellow rolling platform. It's in one of the buildings in the storage. And the maintenance person got up, cleaned it off, and things were doing fine that way. Unfortunately, it hasn't been done in several years. And because of that, it's allowed the pipes to build up the corrosive material on top of it and deteriorate to the point where not just the 8-inch pipe was replaced, but I believe a good many of the perimeter 1-inch pipes were replaced that have the sprinkler attachments to them. But again, you know, it's primarily a maintenance issue that we have to get on a routine schedule and do certain things religiously. Otherwise, it's going to, again, cost us 5 and 10 times more money needlessly.
Jay, this is my personal opinion, and I'd like to ask if you would agree with it. Most obviously, you probably will. But it seems like what's going on around here, my observation of having been here now for 5 years, going through several different maintenance people and several different boards, that somehow things don't translate from one maintenance person to the other, from one board to the next board. And obviously, in this particular case, this whole maintenance procedure about dealing with the pipes never got translated into the next guy, or if it did, it has not been taken care of.
Up until about 5 or 6 years ago, there was always a transition where new board members met with either the president or a key person on the old board, got some type of layout of the land, if you want to call it that, so they knew how to proceed or how it has been handled going forward. That just hasn't happened. The last 5 years is basically a big dark hole.
Well, what we're attempting to do with this board, because I will be finished at the end of this year for sure, for good. But we're going to try to take the plant and facilities committee and the landscape committee, all these people, and create some sort of a document that will always be passed on to the next board. And hopefully they will build on that document or modify it so that there is an ongoing method of what's going on here at the building, and there's an ongoing maintenance schedule, and people are aware of what's happening, because a lot of this stuff is getting lost in the translation.
I agree.
Transition is the right word.
Transition. I agree wholeheartedly. And also on something else, and it's not the previous boards or this board or future boards, but you know, we all are living on the same property. We all have the same vested interest in maintaining it. But some people in the past and probably in the future, they have good intentions about, you know, being on the board and getting together on Zoom or in person and conferring on particular issues. But that's basically it. You know, they don't.
And it's
really,
over. When the Zoom's over, the meeting's over, everybody forgets about it. Moves on. Yep.
Out of mind. And unfortunately, because of our location and the age of our building, you need whoever is on the board, they need to be, at least you have to have one or two people that need to be very proactive in walking around and not completely depending on our management company. They're very nice human beings, but they have 50 and 60 properties, some of these managers, to manage. They devote an hour a week, maybe, to coming onto the property. John is a very nice man. I like him quite a bit, as were previous maintenance people. But sometimes they get so caught up in what they're doing, they don't have the time to focus. If this was your house or my house, as I do here in Rhode Island, I'm proactive, not reactive. Because if it wasn't that way, I would be in the same boat that we're in right now, having a discussion basically with myself at that point. But you know, things have to get done. And unfortunately, we can't always, even though we're paying a good maintenance amount, we can't rely on it 100%. You know, make believe it's our own business. You have to have hands-on if you want it to run properly and cost effectively. And if you don't, there are going to be issues.
I've said this numerous times. I'll say it again for you folks who have come down here and winter down here and live up in Wisconsin or Minnesota or someplace that is not near the ocean. The good news is we live in one of the most beautiful spots in Florida, maybe one of the most beautiful spots in the United States. I mean, we have fabulous beaches. The ocean is great here. Everything is wonderful. Vero Beach is, I can't imagine living in any other town in the United States. Maybe in Colorado, I'd like to live out there every once in a while. But nonetheless, we live in a very hostile neighborhood with respect to the Atlantic Ocean. We had a home in Seagrove before we moved up here, right on the beach. I mean, we had to replace the air conditioning system every 5 years, whether we wanted to or not. The roof was like every 10 years, whether we wanted to or not. That just goes along with the territory. That's the bad news. The good news is we love the place. It's a great place to live, but maintenance is a huge issue.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, you know, one of my apartment buildings in Vero is a block from the ocean. And if I didn't constantly, I mean, literally constantly keep an eye on things, you know, it would cost me 10 times more to deal with the issues.
Right, right.
And quite honestly, even here in Rhode Island, I'm across the street from the ocean, and you know, it's a substantial place. And you know, there was deferred maintenance for a couple of years, And very honestly, I mean, I was out at 7 in the morning with construction people getting diesel fuel for an 80-foot lift where painters are in the back right now doing work because otherwise the stucco deteriorates. I mean, it's just a fact of life. In hot Florida, it's that much magnified because of the intense heat and humidity that we have in Florida, combined with the heavy winds of the hurricane season and combined with the age of our building. We've got a lot of factors that people buying in new complexes don't have to think about for 10 or 15 years because they're new. We're not.
One of the things I would like to point out as we refer to the age of our building, that is a double-edged sword as well. First, as we all know, they don't build buildings like this anymore. It's too expensive to build a building like this. This is a fortress. I don't know that there's another building on Vero's Beach that is built as well as this building is.
This is one of the best. Our building is one of the best. When I was looking back 28, 29 years ago, I looked at a half a dozen buildings and I kept coming back to the Victoria because of primarily the construction.
Well, and as you know, during a hurricane, I mean, I stay here during hurricanes because I think it's one of the safest places in Vero Beach.
It is one of the safest.
Even though we're on the second floor, so we're not going to get flooded. And as you will recall, during the hurricane, I think you even had your mother-in-law stay here because you felt it was a safe place for her to be in. But that being said, it's still 40 years old. Doesn't mean it's going to fall down. It just means that the infrastructure needs maintenance.
It does. And these are really simple and they're not overly expensive to be factored into the operating equation. We just all have to kind of get along, understand it, and not get our backs up, whether it be financially or personal issue or whatever. We just need to bite the bullet. This is where we are. And if we don't want to be there, whoever that may be, because of cost or aggravation or disruption of quiet because of work, then they need to think about something else, I guess. I don't know. I mean,
well, I'm going to throw this in here now. I really created an agenda for this little interview. I would have put it at the beginning or the end, but I'll mention it now. It is my opinion, and only my opinion, and it doesn't necessarily reflect the board or the people who live here, but I believe we need to put maintenance number one above everything else we do here at this building. For beautification comes second, but maintenance has to come first. Then we get down to deciding how to spend the money, but there was a real concern here that let's talk about the sky falling for just a moment. If the sky falls, the pipes all blow up, and at the same time, we've had an assessment out there for $260,000 for beautification. Now we may have to have another assessment for another $150,000, $200,000 to fix pipes. That could be a real serious problem for some of the people who live here. We have some people here that are very fortunate that they spill more than that every month. And there are other people here that are really concerned about the ongoing assessments that we're having. So we have to be very careful where we go and how we approach it.
The most critical thing, as you pointed out, Ron, is maintenance of this building. Because if you don't maintain the building and you have a beautiful entranceway, who wants to drive into a slum that has leaks and pipes breaking when you get into it?
Absolutely.
Doesn't make sense.
All right, let's go back to the pipes for just 1 second. Those great big pipes, and I'll put them up here again on the screen, the ones, especially the ones as you come off the elevator at the 5680 building and you look right up and there are these pipes that look like they're really in bad shape. Those are the big giant fire system, right?
System pipes.
Now, are those pipes in as bad a shape as they look like they're in, or is that just because they need a maintenance and they can be cleaned up, or do you know?
Okay. Again, I've kind of had hands off for the last couple of years. So I can't be honest in saying the condition at this moment because I haven't really looked at it. There are ways of, those pipes are supposed to be a certain thickness. And there are instruments that can gauge the existing thickness of those pipes to determine what the remaining wall life thickness and life expectancy is at this point. And that's the only way we're going to be able to determine if they're more cosmetic and can have whatever product, the one we used in the past, Pour 50 or another product, to, enhance their life expectancy. But I mean, the first thing we need to do is get somebody who has no vested interest in selling us these pipes, like an engineer that knows what he's doing. And there are several in town that know what they're doing. We don't need to really import people who have designed things for us in the past, and those things have failed. Mike Liu is one engineer. I mean, Schlitt is another engineer. I mean, there are enough engineers in Vero Beach. We don't have to.
Didn't you tell me at one time they came in and put something inside the pipe to run through it to kind of determine the what the pipe was mechanically
right.
like?
Yeah, we did. But we did this again. This is going back probably 8 years ago that we ran. Those miniature cameras and
Yes,
whatnot.
yes.
And we got films of it, and obviously the films I'm sure are long gone, but to determine what it was inside, and it was fine at that point. Now what it is at today's point, I can't answer. I don't think anybody could unless we do that again, put in one of those scopes.
Yes, yes.
So I mean, I think that's really, before just having a blank check, I think we just need to really determine what it is that we're actually, and what our priorities are and whatever we spend on maintenance, because I mean, you can rebuild this whole building for 15 million if you start and never stop it. You just have to have a breaking point at some level.
Well, I think you made a very good point, and that is to find somebody, an engineer, like you mentioned, this Lou person, that has no vested interest in selling us anything, but to tell us what we need to do.
Right.
And that would be it would seem to me like would be the first step to make this determination as to what the quality of the pipes are at the present time.
At the present, and maybe it'll cost us between $2,000 and $3,000 to have somebody do that. But it's money well spent if you don't have to do $100,000 worth of repair and can mitigate the problem at a fraction of that amount.
Makes a lot of sense. All right, one more item here. I promised this was going to be a 5-minute video.
Okay.
I lied. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, the next thing was replace all the rotting wood under the gutters around the whole building, which is starting to spread and may be causing other damage. Also, while working on that, there is gutter work that should be done at the same time. These are the 3 most important pressing issues I have been mentioning for the past 3 years that continue to deteriorate.
The gutters were replaced 12 years ago in totality by the existing people doing our roof right now, Roof Authority. I remember it ran us around 140 to 150,000 to replace all those gutters. They're custom made, they're seamless gutters. And when I say by seamless is that they run maybe, a certain length in feet. And at some point they have to be connected with the adjacent gutter, and they're connected with generally a rivet and caulking where the seams are. Again, we used to have Roof Authority come every year, inspect the roof, inspect the gutters, do whatever maintenance there is required on both. So we didn't get behind the 8 ball maintenance-wise. That hasn't been done in 5 or 6 years. A lot of the gutters need maintenance, not replacement, maintenance, that we need to get somebody in there to caulk some of the gutters over time because we haven't maintained them in 5 or 6 years, have pulled away a little bit from the building. They're not level or pitched in the correct manner. So, they're damming up, what's called damming up the water. These are all fixable things. They don't require replacement unless we have holes in the gutters, and I don't believe we do. But in some areas, without question, I know some off the top of my head, the water just runs straight down because the caulking is gone. It's just evaporated because of our climate. We replaced a good much of the soffit area and
Fascia.
fascia. And again, at the time, these things were replaced. Budgetary issue. We didn't want to use, or it wasn't as well-known, composite material like AZEC or other similar materials. Yes, it costs 2.5 times more than wood, but you never have to touch it after that. It's done. It's permanent. It's a solid white. You don't even have to paint it. Nothing. So, I mean, my issue back then was spend the extra money because the labor cost is going up exponentially. But when you finish doing the material, it's done. You don't have to have anyone except maybe minor maintenance here and there. I don't believe, from what I remember, and it's only been 6 months or so, where we have a lot of rotted wood. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't climb up on the roof. But wherever there are areas where wood needs to be replaced, my strong recommendation would be use AZEC or a like product, which is a composite, never rots, never have a problem, and it's a one-shot deal. Whatever we can do at the Victoria, even if it costs a few pennies more, do it now, because you're going to pay for it in interest tomorrow, in extra expense and aggravation.
So Jay mentioned Roof Authority, and I would like to remind everyone that although Jay is not on the board, he was an advisor to the board with respect to putting or repairing our roof, and you were most helpful in that. And Jay also was the liaison with us with Roof Authority and with Chris Long. And I might add, at the present time, we're very happy with that process. We're just about finished up there now. And and with your help, we were able to get it done very cost effectively compared to what was suggested originally. And what a number of people wanted to do was spend $800,000 or $900,000 and replace the whole roof. And I don't think I don't know that we did more than about 40% of the roof, something like that.
About 40%, I would say. Yes.
And the rest of it was deemed to be in good shape, so there was no need to do anything with it. And we now ended up with a warranty as well.
And supposedly we're going to be doing a maintenance inspection on the roof by Roof Authority. So we should not have this kind of situation going forward. If it's a minor thing, tile, this, that, they're going to address it. It'll cost a few dollars and it'll be done.
Well, I want to thank you, Jay. Thank you very much for being with us. It's Sunday morning here, and I got you up at 8 o'clock in the morning up there in Rhode Island to spend a little time with me and talk about this, and to let the rest of the people who live here at Victoria know what we're thinking about right now. And from an expert, I have to consider you an expert since you've been here for almost 30 years, that you can at least give us some guidance as to what direction to go in. And we very much appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time today, and have a great weekend.
You too, Ron, and the best to everybody, and let's just all work together.
All righty, folks, one more thing. Here is a little bit of a complaint. As you come up on our trash chute door here on the second floor, you see the door is open. The light is on. This happens frequently when I come out in the morning, and also the trash chute door has not been closed all the way. These events sometimes cause the light to stay on. The light always stays on if you leave the door open, and it's happening frequently. If the light stays on all night, it costs us a little bit more for electricity. That's my little complaint for the day. Now I have something good to say. Check this out. Here are our newspapers today. They're laying down there on the floor, on the bench, and you can see the numbers are on them, and these numbers were coming off on the floor of the elevator, and nobody is putting them in the elevator anymore. No more. Please don't put them in the elevator. And also don't forget our Halloween party that's coming up here on the 31st. Thanks for watching the video. Have a great day.